After you.
Well, thank you very much. Can I begin in the Jundai language of my people, the Kondamuka people? Yura, Narababajabaru, Wanya, Yura, Nyagurajan, Jagajan, Turabal Yagara, Yura. So to acknowledge all of our ancestors from wherever you come from, whatever your culture, wherever your country. And to acknowledge, of course, the first peoples of this country on which we're gathering today, the Yagara and the Turrbal peoples, who, as you well know, have maintained cultural practices on this country for thousands of generations. Can I also acknowledge Natalie and Luke, and of course the whole team from QFCC for making sure that this summit goes ahead. Can I acknowledge the speakers that have already shared their stories and those who are about to share their stories over today's proceedings. I am reminded by these stories that every single day we are breathing in the DNA of thousands of generations of story. And with every breath, that DNA becomes part of who we are. And we carry some responsibility of that. We carry that into the next story and the next story. But we're also contributing to the DNA of this country and the story of this country every day. Whether you have been here for thousands of generations, like my family and others, or whether your family has come in the last 10 generations, or just arrived in this country, we are all breathing in the DNA of the story, and we are contributing to the DNA that we continue to breathe in over generations. And that becomes a very important part of our responsibility to each other. And right now, we are in the absolute crossroads as humanity. We are in a crossroads at a very, very telling time in humanity. In the year 2000, when some of you weren't even born yet, in the year 2000, I remember reading an article that said in the next 10 years, we will experience the equivalent of 100 years of change. That was true of the time. Now in 2023, I think it's safe to say that in the next 10 years, we will see the equivalent of 1,000 years of change. It is going to happen so rapidly, whether that's through technology, through the impacts of climate change, the way that we interact with each other as humanity, that is going to see a lot of change in the next 10 years. The leaders of that change are sitting in this room and are in this generation of young people. Our jobs as the generation ahead of you is to equip you with all the skills that you need to be able to do this. But you are born for this time. You've been breathing in the DNA required for this time. You are dreaming up the DNA and establishing the DNA of the time that will follow you. And you will have everything you need to be able to navigate these massive shifts in our sense of who we are. But it's for all of us in government, in community organisations that are here, in commissions, to understand the skills that you will need, and also that sense of identity that you will need to be able to navigate these big shifts in time over the next 10 years. That's why on a Queensland level, right now we're finalising our youth strategy, all of government youth strategy, to really pick up on this idea of what is going to happen in the next 10 years. There's a whole heap of things you hear about all the time. In the next 10 years we'll see the Olympic and Paralympic Games, for instance. There'll be big infrastructure changes. But underneath that, there are big human changes that are going to be happening. We've heard some of those stories just looking at the sort of snapshot of the stories that have been shared already this morning. We've already seen some of those things about how we're going to actually be with each other. There's a lot of conspiracy theory out there. Governments are changing. The way that democracy actually plays out in the world is changing. And inside of that is the potential for great division in our communities. But it is the sharing of the stories, of course, that enables us to navigate that and bring us back together. So that's why the youth strategy will be really important. That's why this week's really important. We need to be able to show the rest of the world and the rest of our state that there are so many things to celebrate about young people. If you read the paper every day or looked on, the news every night, you'd think that every young person is, a danger to society. It's just not true. It's just not true. Our young people are the greatest gift that we have, and the stories that you share are the strongest things about you. So today we stand with you, whether that's through the youth strategy that's being finalised currently, whether that's through the activities of Youth Week this week. We stand with you because we know that you are the ones that will navigate this next 10 years of potentially 1,000 years of change. So congratulations to everybody who shared their stories. All the best to those who will continue to share their stories. But mostly, what I want to leave you with is the great hope that you give all of us. The great hope that you'll be able to do better than the generations that have gone before you. That you've breathed in the DNA of the generations that have gone before you, and you've been able to take the responsibilities of that DNA into what you're doing today, and that you'll be able to take that DNA into the stories of the future, and then that will be a better place, that Queensland and Australia will be a better place because you'll be able to navigate that in such a wonderful way. So have a great day, have a great summit, and have a great Youth Week this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Enoch, for your invaluable input on the Youth Summit. Now, I would like to request that all speakers from this session please join